Everyone, l'chaim, l'chaim. By the way, this is class 60. Last week I got confused. The last week was 59. This is class 60 where we're slowly trucking along. L'chaim. You know, when Rabbi Yossi Jacobson has a class, he goes to the 53 chapters. There's 150 classes. I thought to myself, when we started, there's no way we're going to reach 150 because we'll do much faster. Because he talks and talks and talks. But now we're about a third of the way, and not really because the other chapters are bigger. Yeah, but it's 53 chapters, but the chapters in the 30s and 40s are very big, and we're only chapter 60, so we're gonna break 120.
Yeah.
150. Okay.
How many days is the Shas, or like the
7.5 years to the Gemara. Yeah, that book has a page after page. Tanya, it all depends how fast or slow you learn. I mean, you can go even slower. We do pick up.
We've got Rabbi Gordon on the app. It's a year.
But Rabbi Gordon, it's a year because it's a year cycle.
It's a year.
But again, the Tanya is such an amazing book. You can learn it slow and break it down. Why the Alter Rebbe used this word? Why he used that example? Why in the example when he quoted, he didn't quote the full sentence. I've heard all these different. It all depends on how you do it. I mean, you can go slower. You can go. Yeah, the Tanya is a book where you can learn it and relearn it and relearn it, and every single time, the Tanya is one of the greatest books ever printed. It's a phenomenal book. I mean, it's. I think I told you the story of when the Rebbe Rashab was not feeling well, so you had to go to the south for his health. This was the late 1800s. No one really knew what he looked like. There's a whole argument because there's one famous picture of the Rebbe Rashab hanging in my office. He's sitting there, but that was a passport picture. You know, the Bolsheviks made him take a picture of papers. Question is there a picture from before? Most people say no. So no one really knew what he looked. No one knew what he looked like. So he was in a shul, and he had his son with him. He was, I guess, training him, you know. And they were learning, Tanya. Some guy comes into the shul, and he sees this gentleman and the younger man learning. He has no idea who he is. He goes over to him. What are you learning? He says, we're learning Tanya. Oh, the Tanya. It's a good sefer. You tell him the Lubavitcher Rebbe, mind you, right? So the Rebbe says, yeah. It really is. Anyway, let's go. So, in chapter 20, the Alter Rebbe started an idea. The idea was that we're really what the great idea is. It's between chapter 20, 21, 22. You can get lost about the big idea the Alter Rebbe was trying to show. Alter Rebbe was trying to show that God is everywhere. So therefore, you have to do whatever he says, and you can't violate any of his commandments. Because why would you violate? Everybody, obviously, who believes in God semi-properly, understands that God's everywhere, and you would never sin in front of God, right? So why are you sinning? Because you think God's not here. Oh, that's idolatry, right? That's pretty much that's the idea. So in order to express that idea, Alter Rebbe starts with to explain that what is such a big deal for us is it's insignificant to God. So to us, the world's very important, right? So if I told you, go to Minyan, I mean, I'd probably make the same choice. If I told you tomorrow, right? 8 o'clock is Minyan. But 8 o'clock you can get a Minyan, you can get $10 million. You'd probably go get the $10 million, right? And I'd probably understand also, right? It's not a perfect example because
I'm going to give you 2 or 3 million.
I'll let you keep 2 or 3 million. So it's about. I mean, it's not a good example because it's a 7 o'clock meeting, whatever it is. It's not a good example, but whatever it is. But why is that even a choice? The $10 million or the mitzvah? Because you equate, right? Because $10 million is important, but it's not important. So to express the idea of how insignificant the world really is. The Alter Rebbe began and said the Alter Rebbe, the Eibishter created the world with speech, and how many sentences? I think the first chapter of Genesis is 33 sentences. What's 33 sentences compared to your ability to speak? And ability to speak is really, it's lower than your thought, because the idea that you're gonna say is formulated in your mind, right? And then afterwards you choose words, and that in your mind is really insignificant to your soul. You mean your body, your ability to think, right? So these words that you're saying is way down the road of insignificance, right? And then once you say it, so it's separate from you, right? So the Alter Rebbe is going to say in chapter 21 is, so in the comparison between God and and a person ends at the insignificance of the word. But the difference between us and God, the Alter Rebbe is going to say now in chapter 21 is, by human being, yeah, the word is insignificant, but once you say it, it's outside of you, it's independent of you, and it's nothing. By the Eibishter, by Hashem, it's insignificant, but nothing is outside of him. That's a very,
His
very...
words, his thoughts are not a part of him.
Are a part of him.
They're a part of who he is, yeah.
Right? Everything exists
Are not
within
a
him.
part,
Our part, yeah. Everything exists within him, which is a very important idea. Because if you don't stress this idea, you might say, okay, so when I say something, it's independent. So that means there's something separate from me, right? So you can do something that antagonizes me because you and I are separate, right? But
We're also part of ourselves.
no, I'm saying, but meaning a person whose body revolts against its own body, it's not a healthy body. Because why would a body self-destruct? It's not healthy. But you and I, we consider ourselves separate. So you can do something to antagonize me because you exist separate from me. But Alter Rebbe is going to say, with the Eibishter, nothing exists outside of him. So how can you do something to antagonize him? Verstehst? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's load it inside. Chapter 21. Here we go. V'hinei midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the nature of God, shalokim midas bas v'dam, is not like human beings. Why? When a person says something, the breath of his mouth, of his words, that his mouth, hu murgash is felt, v'nire, and it's seen. Well, Alter was in Russia, so it's seen, right? It doesn't mean seen, like that, cold in the weather. Davar b'fiyat is something separate, right? How do you do something separate? Because once you say it, you can't take it back, and you can say something now, especially AI. I can make you say something. Well, let's say I don't have any recording of you saying anything. Could I manipulate your words? Could I manipulate your thoughts? No, it's you. Only words and actions which are separate from you, I can manipulate. Which are separate from the person, which are the 10 faculties, 3 intellectual, 7 emotional. But the Eibishter, the boss, his words aren't separate from him. Because nothing is separate from him. Like the famous line, there is no space that's void from him. What
does it mean?
What's what mean?
Velet atar panui.
Velet, and there isn't, atar, place, panui, empty, minei, from him. It's Aramaic. Like David HaMelech said, if I go to the dark, you're there. In the light, you're there. Everything with the Eibishter, you go, the Eibishter is so. The Alter Rebbe is going to talk about this, and this is an idea we're going to repeat a lot in Tanya. The trick the Eibishter did is that he's here, but he seems that he's not here. That's the trick. You know, to borrow a modern idea, it's in Harry Potter, there's an invisibility cloak. Mm-hmm. He's here, but he's not here.
Right.
Never watched it.
But right. On Shabbos, my brother, I see my brother holding a book. Mind you, he's 50 years old. More, 55. I said,
Penny?
no, Penny's older.
Yeah.
I said, is that Harry Potter? Like, what are you doing? So, anyway, that's the trick. I once saw, I think it was a comedian in an interview, but what he said, it wasn't funny. You're saying the problem today is, in the olden days, if I went to you and said, you're ugly, you're fat, I would see your face recoil in hurt. Now, naturally, the guy was saying, I don't remember who it says, we don't like making people feel uncomfortable. We feel uncomfortable when we make other people uncomfortable. So then I would say, I'm not going to do that again. As kids, we learn, I'm not going to do that again because I made him feel bad. But now, because of the technology, I can sit behind a screen and I can say the most terrible things about you, and there's no feedback, right? So the whole reason why.
There's no consequence, real consequence.
But saying consequence, saying that's another problem.
But
Saying,
there's no feedback per se, as far as expressive feedback and body language.
so right, so
from
we
the other
don't.
person and from you.
So because I don't.
Feedback back to you from
Right.
the
So
it's
because
not a
because
conversation.
I can go online, I can say you're a terrible, ugly person, and because I don't see your reaction, I don't understand the hurt I cause. Why? Because automatically I perceive you as separate from me, right? So that parents tell us, you don't like to be done to you, don't do it to other people, because it's really a connection. We're all human beings. If you don't like it, don't do it. But if I get behind the screen, so the separateness is even more pronounced, right? So Alter Rebbe is saying over here, so why do we do an Aveir, God forbid, or don't do a mitzvah? It's because we're too focused on our separateness from the Eibishter. But that separateness is nonsense. We're not separate, because there is no place that's where He is not. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is everywhere, up, down, right, left, and all around. There is no place that's void from Him. Therefore, he says, therefore, the whole example we gave in chapter 20 of speech. So the part of the example, it's not a perfect example. There are many examples when you're trying to explain God's spirituality. An element of the example is true, but there's always going to be something lacking. So the example we gave in chapter 20 of speech, where a word or a sentence or a paragraph is insignificant, that's where the similarity ends. But the problem with the entire example of speech so and no, 1 second. Another idea we're going to express in this week in this chapter or a different chapter, I can't remember. We're trying to say, Alter Rebbe says here that nothing is separate from Him, right? By us, speech is separate. So why are you calling it speech then? Why speech if it's not?
So we understand what it means.
Because
But we also need to, but with that we can also understand how far of a dimension it is from us.
that's a good point. But also the reason why it's called speech is because it's just like by speech, by us. We're created in the image, right? In the likeness. Just like by us, speech is is separate from us. So the reason why he uses the term speech is because Hashem created the idea that we are separate from Him. Not that we are actually separate. The idea in our heads that we're separate from Him. It's like the old joke. This kid gets angry at his parents, 4 or 5, 6 years old, right? And they find him, and he runs away from the house. But they find him at the corner. Why? Because Mommy and Daddy told me a mile across the street by myself. Right? So,
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
So if we didn't see Hashem separated from us, would we, a person that doesn't see Hashem separate from him at all, does that also mean that they're a person that don't see their words as separate from them?
No, because your words are separate from you. Your words are a person.
Maybe they're more more contained, more.
Well, generally, Pirkei Avot says, "Speak less, do more."
Yes, of course.
No, but a tzaddik is a person. A tzaddik as a person always stands with the awareness that God's next to him. So how can I, or why wouldn't you do, a mitzvah? Right? Like Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, like, all you got to do is just remember Hashem's with you and everything's easy. So he says, what is Hashem asking from you? Just to fear Him. Once you fear Him, what does it mean to fear Him? Cognizant of the fact there is no place void of Him. Once you have that, then everything's easy. The problem is, it's not easy. That ain't easy. Yeah, that's the thing. But for Moshe, Moshe, that's tzaddik. Yeah, that's the definition of a tzaddik, by the way. He always does the right thing and will never do the wrong thing. Why? Because would you sin? If the Eibishter was saying, would you sin? No.
Moshe did one wrong thing.
He did not do wrong. God forbid. Don't ever put the word Moshe and wrong together in a
He did
sentence.
wrong.
That
He
wasn't
was
wrong.
told not to.
That wasn't wrong. He was not told not to.
Oh, okay.
And also everything
He was not told not to. Hashem told Moshe, take your stick and speak to the rock and take out water. Moshe took his stick and he spoke to the rock. But then the rock didn't listen. Now what's Moshe supposed to do? So let's say you follow God's command and it doesn't work. What are you supposed to do? Moshe said, if I hit the rock 40 years ago,
Get his attention.
I hit the rock 40 years ago.
It's such a great evidence that free will does exist. It happens what Hashem wants for you to happen for you.
Right.
But if you don't do something about it, then maybe it will.
So, but Chassidus explains Moshe hit the rock on purpose, because to help the Jewish people. Oh, well, that's a side discussion. By the way, the Gemara talks about this. David HaMelech didn't do anything wrong. David HaMelech, I was listening to a class today. Given, are we allowed to argue on previous, rabbis?
But there is also a difference between arguing about rabbis and arguing about Gleim Shalom El-Kavah.
No, I'm saying, but are we saying? One of the points you have to realize, these people are so. We cannot comprehend their greatness. So, for us to say, I don't know. Let's say when you say Einstein was wrong about mathematics, you don't even get to the beginning of his understanding of mathematics. So you don't get a right to say right or wrong, because of your elemental knowledge. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense to you. So it doesn't make sense to you. You be quiet and you try to understand it. You saying? Let's say Albert Einstein wrote 2 plus 2 is 5. Oh, he's wrong. No, there got to be a reason why he would write that, because obviously he knows it. So Moshe followed everything Hashem said for 120 years of his life. Hashem said, "Speak to the rock." You think Moshe forgot? And it's something so silly. Hashem clearly said, "Speak to the rock." Why would he hit a rock? Right. So you got to be very, very careful in the approach you take.
They wouldn't have to pray 3 times a day, right? Because of how much they were already in Torah, right? They were so deep into Torah.
That you're talking about something else. That is, if a person is totally preoccupied in Torah, where the material world doesn't affect him at all, then he doesn't have to pray. But the Gemara addresses this. The Gemara says these people are very, very few and far in between, even amongst the rabbis. Even amongst the rabbis. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai told other rabbis, only the Bnei Aliyah can do it. It's
very special rabbis.
Yeah, even amongst the greats. We're talking about people that we don't really... Yeah, anyway, we'll go with the subject.
Yeah.
Let's go. Anyway, so for example, he says, just like Hashem tells Yirmiyahu, at the bottom of page 281 in the old print. Just like we read this every fast day, right? Because on a fast day, we're mourning. We don't say, not in Yom Kippur, obviously, but the other fast days, we're mourning. We say, oh God, why do you do it? So what do we read? We read the paragraph where Hashem tells the Navi, you don't understand. Your thought and my thought, not that I'm greater than you. No. It's a totally different species of thought. It says, just like you can't understand my thought, you can't understand my ways. Same thing is speech. Hashem's speech is not like us, but by us, speech by definition is separate from us. If you don't say what's on your mind, I have no idea what's in your mind. Please, let's tell that to our wives. How am I supposed to know what you want? Tell me what you want. Like the famous joke. Like the guy goes, he's in a fight with his wife, so he takes his wife out, argument fight. He takes his wife out to the restaurant, and the waiter comes and says, do you guys know what you want? So the guy says, I want to be a gentleman. So, honey, what do you want? She says, you want to know what I want? I want you to know what I want. He turns to the waiter, we're going to be here for a while, right? Right? Speech, by definition, by us, is separate. But just like Hashem's thought is different from us, so too his speech is different from us. So, by us, the only separate equals expression. If you don't express, to us, separate and expression is synonymous. But the Eibusher, it's not. Speech is expression, not separate. By us, expression is separate. If it's not outside of you, I can't experience it because we're separate. So the Alter Rebbe is saying in chapter 20, we said speech is insignificant. But over here we're saying speech is expression. By us, it's expression and separate. By Eibishter, it's expression only, not separate, because nothing's separate from him. Right? So, in theory, Torah could have said, like I'm giving them ideas, and Hashem expressed, and let there be light. But to us, that doesn't make sense. Hashem said. So, that's what we say. So by human being, speech expresses what was previously hidden, and number two is separate. But by Eibush, no. It's not called speech by Eibush. B'shem dibur, real speech. It's only an example for us to understand why. Just like by Yasser ba'adam hu magal Hashem mashu tafel v'nel machshavtei. What's the purpose of speech? The purpose of speech is to reveal to the other person what's hidden inside of you. Kach lamayla. Same thing is there was God, and the godliness was inside of him, and Hashem wanted to make an expression in order to express the world. So what do you call it? He called it speech, but not because it's the same literal speech like us. Kach lamayla l'bein tzay baruch hu yitzias ha'or. The exiting, the going out of light, of godliness, the chayos and life force, menu from him yisbarech, mehalam elagilei, from the hidden state to a revealed state. Why did he do it? In order to create the world and to sustain them. What does the Torah call that? B'shem dibur. And by the way, there are many times in the Torah the Torah gives us a word which are not literal. It says by Egypt, Hashem took us out with a strong hand. What, I think Hashem was pumping iron for 190 years, and only when he was ready, he won Mr. Olympian? No, it's obviously. And when the Egyptians say by the plague of lice, it's the finger of God. You think they actually thought, But many times the Gemara says, it's for us to be able to understand. Like the same thing is when I'm trying to teach I'm trying to teach a kid 1 + 1 is 2, but it's too abstract for him. So I take 2 apples or 2 cups and say, you have 1 cup, you have 2 cups. It says how many cups do you have now? 2. Right, but it's not the number 2 is not apples. You're just using the apples to teach the kid about 2. Same thing is the Eibishter. Not speech like we know it. It's an idea that we're using to understand how Hashem expressed from himself. Like I said, before the world was created, it was Hu Shema Levad, him and his name alone. And this expression was in 283, just above where it says the 15th of Shvat. What page are you? Did I lose the ayah?
290.
Oh, 290 in the new print.
We're in the bottom of 288, right?
No, but not now on the top of 283 in the old print. And this expression, which we're calling speech, that are the 10 utterances, expressions that Hashem created the world. So the same thing is if let's say you came and you said. And I said, Ira, it's not in bad mood. How do you know? He said it. Speech is expression. V'chein, shar, unless you live in the 1920s and you have silent films. Okay.
That's when they had to really use facial expressions,
right.
And body language to show the expression that they were trying to.
Right, Charlie Chaplin, right? Yep. V'chein shar kol Torah. The same thing as in the entire Torah, Nevim Ksuvim, and the prophets Shasiga and Nevim B'Mar and Nevuosa. This is a very interesting discussion. You can get into it. You find in different times in the Navi, they're saying these different things. The English word is called anthropomorphic, when you attribute physical ideas to something that's not physical. But why do you do it? Because it's the only way. You ever see those tests where they show you blobs of ink, or you see a cloud and it looks like why? Because in our mind, it has to take some kind of form. It can't be nothing. So the Torah, the Nevi'im would experience Nevuah, vision, and the vision would take a certain form of in order for them to understand. Why? Because like the famous thing, right? It says Moshe asked to see Hashem's face. What was Moshe asking? Hashem tells Moshe, you can't see my face, you can see my back. Hashem is the face, Hashem is the back. And he sees Hashem's back, and the Medrash says, what did Moshe see? He saw the back of Hashem's tefillin. What does this mean? You think Hashem, is not a tefillin? Was it Ashkenaz or Sfarad? Right? Right? Was it the square now or the yonah? Good question. Yeah? Can I ask Moshe? So obviously, this is a way that Moshe perceived it. Right? Hashem is not physical front and back. Kabbalah talk about what it means. Panemius, Chitzonius, higher level, lower level, whatever. But the point we're trying to make over here is that everything that we use expressions is for us to experience it, but that doesn't define him, because with the Eibishter, everything is included in him. So Hashem's speech and thought. It's by us, your thought is united with you. How do I know? I can't steal your thought. Let's say you come up with a great idea, and you don't tell me. I can't steal that idea. So the thought is one with you. But once you say something, I can steal that idea, right? And I can pass it off as mine, right? But the Eibishter, his speech, everything is one with him. Just for example, the words you say, or the things, or you're about to say, they're one with you. They're inside of you. But the shuk or desire, or craving comes into the heart. Before it goes up to the heart, to the mind. In order to think of it in letters, because letters are interchangeable. Right? When you want ice cream, I don't know if you guys realize I have a problem with ice cream. When you want to, Rabbi Gordon has an issue with 7-layer cake. My thing is ice cream, right? Everyone has their vice.
I thought it was chocolate cake.
It's a better way.
7-layer cake.
Rabbi Gordon is 7-layer cake, yeah. For me,
But I thought his was chocolate cake.
it's chocolate cake.
Because he's always saying chocolate cake.
Chocolate cake,
I want
ice
chocolate
cream.
cake.
It's everything, by the way.
Chocolate cake with ice cream.
Oh, souffle. There you go. Right, right. God made heaven and earth, right? Yeah. All right, guys. Tanya, the class is over.
My mom has a petit bear cake that she makes.
What?
Petit bear, you know what's petit bear?
No.
Come on. It's they're like mishtachim, like layers,
Yeah.
things, like biscuit.
Just have to see it.
Okay.
You have to invite it to make it.
Exactly.
So, the concept of ice cream or chocolate cake, whatever it is in you. It's united with you, right? So you can have a desire for a chocolate cake before you start thinking CHOC, right? Or ugash chocolate. It's not the letters. The letters are already a very external letter. Then the letters of this thought, which are in the potential state in the heart. And when they're in that state, we're holding by where it says the 8th of Shvat, and they are united there with their source, which is the wisdom or the intellect in the brain, whatever it is, whether it's an idea, a thought, or a desire. Just like, for example, that thought is a part of you, and it's one with you, and it cannot be separated from you until you separate it. Same thing is there. For example, the thought and speech of Hashem is one, but tachlas hayuchud. So let me ask you a question. Let's say I don't allow you to have ice cream. Can I take out the idea of ice cream from inside you?
I got it out of my. Really?
No, but the concept is there. Maybe the desire, but the concept is there.
I completely remember.
Fine, but the concept is there. I mean, let's even if you don't eat ice cream for 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah, I know what's ice cream.
Exactly, the concept is there because it's one with you,
Yeah.
right? So the same thing is we are one with the Eibishter. Not that we exist within him. Like for example, we swallowed a pill, so the pill is inside of us, but it's not one with us. No, it's not. We're not in Hashem's digestive system, so to speak. We just happen to exist within a bubble. No, we are one with him. Just like the idea of ice cream is inside of it. Weird. It's one with you. If I open you up, I put you under the microscope, I won't see the concept of ice cream, right? It's one with you. Same thing as we're one with the Eibishter. Even after Hashem spoke the words, let there be light, let the creation, with the creation of the world. Just like, for example, before you speak the words that you one with you, right? So too, we are one with the Eibishter now, after you created, just like we were before. We're created. That's the trick. That's the trick. To realize the connection, even though we can perceive ourselves as separate. And that's what does it mean when we make the world a dwelling place for Hashem? Is to realize the connection, even though the perception is separation. Right? So Mashiach comes, we're going to see the world for what it is, that we're really connected. We're going to finish the chapter. Let's go. Ve'ein shum shinoi klal, and there is no difference lefanav yisbarach. There is no difference before God. Ella only, and this, by the way, is the fundamental concept. You're going to take away from Tanya a few fundamental concepts. This is one of them. You always have to make a difference in perception, in experience, top down or down up. For the Eibishter, our existence from the Eibishter top down, there is no difference. There is no separation. So sometimes we ask questions based on our experience. Our experience is not his experience. Right?
So we're trying to go from down up.
No, so sometimes we have expression. We feel separation. Why do you feel separation? It's because from our experience.
Right.
But our experience isn't the experience. Right? Let's say, for example, this is not a good example, but for example, let's say you're a Patriots fan. Let's say I'm a Jets fan, right? Or a Dolphins fan, right? Starting, no?
Yeah.
What am I doing here? Anyway, so... All right, guys, moving to class that Thursday was a bad idea.
Chiefs to Ravens.
All right. Anyway, so let's say you're a Dolphins fan and you're a Jets fan, and we see a play, and so you experience one way, I experience another way, right? It's not a good example at all. But the whole point the example I'm trying to bring is...
Actually, it is, because if there's a penalty on it,
right.
it depends on who it's against.
Safe out. You know what I'm saying? By the way, till the end of the day, is Yogi Berra and Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson stole home Game 6, I think, in the World Series against the Yankees, and he was called safe. Yogi Berra till the end of the day, no, he was out. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so the point is, we always have to make that. So many questions we have. Why God this and why this and all the whys and things don't make sense. Always coming from our point of view. And Hashem has to remind us through the prophets. He says, "Listen, that's from your point of view, from our point of view." Take for example, a kid getting a shot, and the kid's getting a shot, and he's devastated and the pain and everything else, but the parents aren't crying. Why? Because they understand your point of view. You as a 3-month-old or 6-year-old, you're in pain now, but this shot is going to help you with polio and everything else. I'm saying, so you have a much broader point of view. So the Rebbe says that you exist for 50, 60, 70 years. What do you know? You consider yourself separate. Someone sent. I actually posted on my family chat. My girls, because they're all big shots. Let me read this. Someone posted so they said, hey, teenagers, they know everything, blame you for everything, and they still need you for everything. Right? That's who we are. We're teenagers. We think we know everything, blame God for everything, but they know absolutely nothing. We're absolutely dependent. Right? So this is what the Alter Rebbe says. There's no difference. Ella el habruyim. Only to the created being, only from the created being that receives its life from Hashem's speech. So we say Hashem, there was God, and He created the world, and now I'm a separate, independent entity. Which time it clothed itself, Hashem's energy clothed itself in the world to sustain it. How does it happen? We learned back in chapter 2, the whole Seder Shalshlos, remember that? Seder Shalshlos, how the Tzilus, Bria, Yitzir, Hashem filters down his energy to the point where we perceive ourselves as independent. That whole filtration process is called Seder Shalshlos. From cause to effect, through the myriad and various levels and contractions and making another curtain, another limiting the light, limiting the quantity and the quality, until until the created being is able to receive its life force for this bottom Messias. So the father or mother are training their kid to ride a bike. As long as the kid feels the father's hand there, he'll never really learn to ride a bike. He has to think the father let go. But the father always got his hand in case the kid falls, right? So the Hashem has to, chose to, because he chose to, he has to, right? No one's forcing his hand, but Hashem wanted companionship, so to speak. Hashem wanted, he chose, not because he chose the Jewish people should give him something. Now, that facilitated the need that you feel separate from me. Right? Well, let's say my kids want to buy me a birthday present. What are they going to buy me? But they have no money. They have no money. They have nothing. I give them everything. What are they giving me? Right?
It's like the mashal about the rich man and his son, and he's trying to teach him a lesson about financials a little bit. So he tells him, you know what, you can start this business and I will help you a lot. So he asks him, so what's the deal? So I will give 2,000 and you only need to give $1. And then he says, okay, done deal. Daddy, can I get $1?
Yeah, exactly. So God, so this whole concept of independence, it's a facade. We perceive ourselves as independent, but God is always we're always connected. Now, why? Because Hashem wants us to have free choice. If we're always connected, in the previous class, the angels are talking about that. Mm-hmm. Why don't the angels have free choice? Because they're constantly in the state of awareness of godliness. They don't have a state of independence. Neither do we, but we perceive it. Choice can only be when you have a vision of independence. As wrong as a perception is, doesn't make a difference. Freedom of choice can only happen.
Can only be, what are you saying?
When there's a perception of independence. If there's no perception of independence, there's no free choice. There's no free choice. There's no reward and punishment, or there's no impact. You're not choosing. You're not accomplishing anything. Like in prison, you have people that are very functional human beings, right? They wake up on time, they go to work and everything else, but no one gets them a reward. They're not model citizens. Why? Because they have no choice. Choice is only when you wake up in the morning and you go to work and you make the right decisions. Why? Because you have a choice to be everything else. Same thing is. So, but the only problem with human beings is we take it too far. That's why we have the Torah. That's why we have the mitzvahs. One of the reasons at a bare knuckle, very low level, one of the reasons why we have the mitzvahs is because we're so prone to forget. Hashem says, maybe before you go out into the world, just come to shul for a second and remind yourself. Put on tefillin, and then in the middle of the day you're gonna forget. So do it again. And sometimes you're so overwhelmed by the world, you need like a full timeout. You go into a hut, a crazy thing, but but that's the idea of the sukkah, Why do we sit in the sukkah for 7 days?
To remind ourselves.
To remind ourselves just how dependent we are. We have to sit in a temporary dwelling. Just how dependent we are. Because we build a big house, with impact windows, and and we're convinced we got it. I don't need you, saying so the sukkah, the element, but there's an element of every mitzvah is like that on a minor scale and a major scale, but in order, so Hashem wants us to have this perception of independence. But now the Alter Rebbe is going to touch on here 16th of Shvat. I know it's late, but just quickly, Alter Rebbe is going to touch on a major argument, between Kabbalists that went until the 1500s. That the idea is, if Hashem is so great, that means how could the world exist if He's here? So that means the concept of tzimtzum is limitation, contraction, right? He limited himself. Is it literal or not? So for a long time, the Kabbalists was, otherwise how would the world exist? Well, we're not talking about idiots over here. We're talking about major heavy hitters.
Real symptom.
It's called Simsum Kipshutoy. That Hashem literally created a vacuum of His godliness, and in that vacuum we exist. Came the Arizal and said, no, part of God's greatness of being almighty is He could be here and not here at the same time. The Tzimtzum is only a facade for you, not for Him. It means He's the same powerful, there's the same amount of godliness here as there was 5,785 years ago, almost 85 years ago. How do we hear? That's the trick. That's the trick.
It's the same thing.
It's the exact same thing. The Tzimtzum is not literal, but to us it is. It's
From our perspective.
It's only from our perspective.
From our perspective.
Which, if we think about it.
But you do get to think about it as an individual. How do I do more to myself? For example, in this world.
What do you mean?
We gotta take less space, from a consumption
Right.
standpoint, I think from that standpoint, from
Well, when you
little
hold
less,
of your
a
when you
little
hold
less.
of yourself a lot, so
Yeah.
you need
I'm saying that's another perspective of ours or
right.
some about the meaning of Tzimtzum.
When you focus, that's why it's interesting. Out of all the Averis, out of all the character, by the way, it's not even an Aver, by the way. Gaiva, it's not listed as an Aver, you know?
Gaiva? What?
Gava, arrogance.
Gava.
Is listed under idolatry.
Idolatry.
Not listed under separate, even though you would think, especially when you read about in the Gemara what it says. But out of all the Averis, and if I'm arrogant, am I stealing your money? Am I eating chazer? Am I not keeping Shabbos? Why is it so bad? You can think of a lot worse things. Yeah, it's bad, but if you look at the way the Gemara talks, and Medrash talks about. Yeah, I'm saying, but why? Out of all the things, because what does Gava mean? Gava means you're taking up space. That's what Gava means. Gava means you take up space. And we said before, let's not stop punning him. There is no space void of him. Hashem said either. You got to make a choice. Either me or you. And the second it's you, that's idolatry. That's why Gava, the Rambam puts Gava, arrogance, under the laws of idolatry, because it's really a subdivision of what that is. So, but we're saying over here, 16th of Shvat. This is that. By the way, before you can think of the people, the pre-Arizal were they were obviously lacking. No, because it's a very logical conclusion. In order for us to be, the Abish has to be not. He created a vacuum, right? If I'm in this space, you can't be in this space. So the only way we can exist is for Abish to sort of move himself aside, which, think about it, makes a lot of sense. But that's exactly the problem Alter Rebbe talks about in Tanya, and Kabbalah, and Arizal talks about, and that's the stumbling block we always fall through. We always think of the Eibishter through our lens of experience, and you always have to make sure to remember who it is you're talking about, him, and he doesn't. He's what's the most godly? The Rebbe talks about this in a mimer, in a sikha. What's the most godly thing? Impossibility of all impossibilities. He's here and not here at the same time. That's Hashem. Hashem is limit and unlimited simultaneously. Haya v'ya ke'echad. One. He was, is, and will always be one. You understand? The more you don't understand him, the more godly it is. That's kind of you're saying. And all this breaking down and filtration and all that. Hey, Mechinas Hester upon him, and he's hiding himself. To hide his experience and his light and all that. So we get to the point where Hashem speaks. So it shouldn't be too much expression, because too much godliness we can't express. We can't experience. We're 110, godliness 220, right? We wouldn't be able to hack it. So it's only for us to be able to experience it, not because it is, right? So it says, "V'lechein," therefore, So because we experience godliness, right, as something separate, so we think that's the reality. As if the world is something separate from him. Because we think, how did God create the world? He expression. Oh, to us, expression is speech. So that means we're separate. So we think Hashem created the world like when we speak. Why? Because we're looking at it from our point of view up, right? Like, the famous thing, like you look, we put the number over here, 6. To meet the 6 to you, it's a 9. From my point of view, we're talking about the 6. Speech is separate. So if speech is separate, the Eibishter's speech is separate. But you're forgetting, the Eibishter's point of view is totally different. But to God, there is no concealment. We're the ones wearing the glasses. The Eibishter sees clearly. And like it says in Tehillim, chapter 139, David HaMelech says, there is no dark, there is no light, there is it's all the same. Not that God could see in the dark. No, there is no darkness, there is no concealment. To us, it's a very hard. God was with me in the bad times. There are no bad times.
It's connected to last week's parsha with Re'eh.
Yeah, and by the way,
it's a matter of perspective.
And by the way, no, even more. Tagim Yonason. It's interesting. I thought you were going to say. I thought that you bring up Tagim Yonason doesn't when he translated the Torah into Aramaic doesn't say bracha and klala. He says bracha and it's the chalfin and the chiluf the opposite. So the Rebbe asked a question. Says the opposite of blessing is not curse. Saying, why did he say that? Why did he translate it that way? Because he says Tagim Yonason would live in Eretz Yisrael at a much higher level. He says because there is no klala from the Eibishter, there is no curse from the Eibishter, there is no bad that comes from the Eibishter. You're experiencing it that way. That's a you problem. Yeah, and we ask the Eibishter why it has to be that way. It's true. There's pain. Don't confuse pain and bad. There's pain. There's suffering. There's no bad.
But bad doesn't exist in this world because this is...
There is no bad. The Eibishter doesn't do bad. There's pain. The question is why there's pain, not why there's bad. Pain. There is no bad.
And it's also for just your
perspective.
World, your perspective.
Going back to the analogy of the shot. The kid experiences pain. The shot. You go to a kid and you say, because you're getting the polio vaccine, therefore it's not pain. What are you talking about? The kid hurts. It hurts. But it's not bad. It's good. Right?
Debatable, yeah.
No, it's not debatable. It's not debatable. You grew up with people with polio?
No.
With people with their hands like this?
No.
Yeah, I did. Ask anybody who had relatives that had lost the use of a limb to polio. No, it's good.
The shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Ask anybody. You speak to your parents, grandparents. There's where people would die.
I had students that were not only visually impaired, but they had polio.
Yeah.
They had other physical.
Yeah, I mean, I had kids in my class. Their parents they didn't have use of a limb because of it. Yeah, sure. Anyway, but the Eibishter, he's above it. Like David HaMelech says, darkness doesn't obscure you. There is nothing. Why? Because the whole idea. Let's say, for example, I have an idea, and I want to explain idea to my kid. And I'm looking for a connection to my kid, my 9-year-old, even 13-year-old, whatever it is. If I explain it to him the way I have it in my head, after years of study, it'll overwhelm him. Not only he won't get it from it, it'll become a negative experience. And it won't be any experience, because experience means connection. So what do I got to do? I got to water it down. So let's say, for example, you're listening to me, teach my kid. This rabbi is an idiot. Look at the way he's explaining it. Why? Because the way you're listening, the way I explain to my kid, so you're saying...
You're viewing it from your perspective.
You know what I'm saying? But just because he's experiencing it that way, does that mean that's the way I have the idea in my head? No! The idea in my head is a lot deeper, right? I mean, so the Chassidus gives this example many times of student to teacher. We're the student receiving from the Eibishter. And many times we think because that's the way we're having it, that's the way it is by the master. No, the master's experience is a totally different. Mishum, and finishing off last 3 lines, 287 in the old print. Mishum she'ena tzimtzum tzumtzumim v'levushim davar nifra b'menach yisbarach. There is no constriction. There is no limitation. There is nothing that's blocking the Eibusha chas v'shalom. Ella kadin kamsa. Just like the turtle is part of the shell is part of the turtle. It's not separate. The shell is part of the turtle. The levush the levush is part of it. So the tzumtzum is godliness.
Kamta is not kamta from the Gemara.
Right? No. Commercial cost, like we say, it's written in Devarim. Moshe says, you should take the heart. We say it in Aleinu. And take the heart. Ki Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the higher name of Hashem, which represents godliness, the way He's above the world. Who are the Kim? It's the same guy. Many times we're thinking that God's here, He's not here. He's not watching me. He doesn't care. We think, there's a world and there's God. No, Moshe say, take the heart. Ki Hashem hu the Kim. And then he continues. You think you're important? Ain't no, there's nothing else besides from him, right? We're going to learn something else. Therefore, so because everything's a part of him, right? So that speech, right? That speech remember we gave the example in previous class that the teacher told the kid you're good at painting, good at science, right? That kid became, or you're good at music, and that kid became something special. Why? Because the teacher did a throwaway comment. Probably doesn't even remember it. The Eibusher made a throwaway comment, a few thousand years ago, let there be light. And we're like, oh my God. But today, Eibusher, it's nothing. It's absolute. Just like that those words are totally null and void inside of you, they're worthless, have no meaning. That's what it is. We said, but the problem is, end off the class and thinking, okay, so we have no meaning. No, we have meaning because the Eibusher decided we have meaning. That's why. The only meaning we have.
Huge meaning, comparable to the creation of the world.
No, we are the meaning of the creation of the world. But why? Because Eibusher gave us meaning. Meaning, our value is not inherently because we exist. Our existence has no value. The only reason we have value is because Eibusher imbued us with value. Otherwise.
And we're the same as the existence and connection to Hashem, the same way as all His words.
Yeah.
And everything He does.
So why can't you go and destroy this and that? Because who gives you the right to destroy Hashem's word? You're all connected. I'm saying, why do you think you're better? You're better because I make you better, the Eibusher says. This week, the previous class, we're talking about cutting down trees. You can't just go destroy the environment. Who gives you the right? You think because you're a human being and you better just destroy my world? Absolutely not.
There is a movement of people killing animals and cows because their farts.
The methane gas.
Affects the ozone or something.
Yeah.
Who gave you permission to do something like this?
Right. If you think about it, the people are tree huggers and everything else, right? They have a point. Why do you think your existence is so much more important than the others? What value do you have? You only have value if you contribute. What's a valid contribution? Okay, the Torah tells us what's a valid contribution. Why? Because sometimes we can lose focus.
But the difference is that we have the Torah.
And no, everyone has. Our job is to teach the lessons of the Torah to the world. That's why Hashem gave us the Torah. That's
I meant everyone, like also all these creations in a way.
Right, but all interconnected. The whole point, because we all exist inside the Eibusher, everything fits in, streamlined into the Torah. Everything you can find your way. Everything in the world is a place is representation in the Torah. Like the famous line in Medrash, Hashem looked into the world and created the world. Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world. The Torah is the blueprint for the world. So everything in the world has value because Hashem imbues it, not because, just think of it like an employee.
We are part of the blueprint.
Right. If you think of an employee, we're employees. You have value because I decide you have a value as my employee. Otherwise, if you're not my employee, get out. I don't need you here. You're a strain, you're a weight. You're not. See, that's the problem. Today, everyone wants to think, I value. What you're taking up, you're sucking oxygen, you're putting out CO2. What are you contributing to society? Yeah. How is it today better than it was yesterday? Why? Because you ate another hamburger? I'm saying, but you consumed. A person has to think when he says Shema at night. what do
It's
you,
a kosher hamburger.
obviously. Instead of saying, well, what do you do today? It's like, you know, the Pirkei Avos says, Anan poli yamanan. We are day workers. Day workers, and day workers means that you're paid. You know, the guy standing outside Home Depot. Just because I have you work today doesn't mean I'm going to give you a job tomorrow. You have no idea what's going to be tomorrow, right? Sometimes we get too caught up on ourselves. So one of the lessons from Tanya is relax. Don't get. All right, this is turning into a farbringen. Good, good bench here.